The gavel cracked against oak 3 times, sharp as gunshots. The sound ricocheted off the marble walls of Seoul Central District Court and rolled over the crowd like a warning. Reporters surged forward in a single, hungry wave. Camera lenses zoomed in on the defendant's table, where Baek Jae-hyun sat in a charcoal suit that fit him like tailored armor. On a normal day, he owned rooms like this. Today, his fingers wouldn't stop flexing against the table. His lawyer whispered strategy in his ear, rapid fire, but Jae-hyun barely heard a word. He was listening for footsteps. All rise for the Honorable Judge Zara Nwosu. The doors swung open. She didn't walk in. She entered like a verdict. Judge Zara Nwosu moved with the precision of a blade being unsheathed, controlled, lethal, inevitable. Her black robe flowed behind her, swallowing the light. Her dark skin glowed under the LEDs like polished onyx, her expression calm in the way of storm seen from far away. Beautiful, yes, but the kind of beauty that carried warnings. She climbed the steps without hurry, without a single wasted motion, as if she already knew how this would end. When she sat and opened the case file, the room tightened. Then her eyes lifted and found his. The impact hit like a punch to the chest. For 5 long, silent seconds, the courtroom vanished.
No cameras, no lawyers, no spectators.
Just the man who thought he could buy the world, and the woman he'd buried alive. A slow curve touched her lips. Not a smile, a recognition. Defendant Baek Jae-hyun, she said, her voice low, threaded with a faint foreign accent that made his shoulders lock. Do you recognize me? Air left his lungs in a rush. 7 years wasn't nearly long enough to forget the woman whose career his family had set on fire. The prosecutor who'd gotten too close to his father's empire. The woman his family had smeared so thoroughly the world assumed she'd never dare show her face again. He'd thought she was finished. He hadn't expected she'd come back sharpened. His lawyer shot to his feet. Your Honor, the defense would like to request a brief. Request denied. Zara's tone cut clean, not a decibel raised. We proceed. Mr. Baek, I asked you a question. Do you recognize me? Cameras swung toward them like predators hunting blood. Jae-hyun forced himself to stand. His knees fought him. Yes, Your Honor, he said quietly. I recognize you. Good. She leaned back, studying him the way hunters study prey that once thought it was a predator. Then you already know. I will show you the exact amount of mercy you showed me. She let the weight of it settle. Which is to say, she added softly, none at all. The difference, Mr. Baek, is that I will do it in full view of the law.
Seek. He sat.
The prosecution traded electrified looks. The defense paled. A reporter mouthed, "Oh my God." And Baek Jae-hyun understood, too late, that he wasn't here to negotiate another scandal or bury another problem with money. He was here to experience what it felt like when a woman you tried to erase chose to destroy you properly. With truth. And the truth was about to bury him alive. 7 years earlier, Zara Nwosu had been unstoppable. Not because she was the youngest senior prosecutor in the FCC, or because her resume sparkled. She was unstoppable because she worked harder than anyone, longer than anyone, and with a stubbornness that didn't switch off. Her Lagos office was always a controlled mess. Sticky notes on walls. Half-finished coffee. Files spread across the floor because she liked to see everything at once. Chitty, her assistant, had stopped trying to convince her to rest. He just dropped food beside her and prayed she'd remember to chew. Zara didn't see criminals as villains. She saw them as people who made choices. And she believed in consequences. Heavy ones. And then came the titanium case. It didn't feel important at first.
A tip.
Suspicious transfers. An anonymous whistleblower. She'd handled dozens like it. But titanium didn't behave like normal criminals. The deeper she dug, the stranger the numbers became. Funds looping through 5 countries. Mining deals signed in the middle of the night. Communities erased on paper, no explanation. money disappearing and reappearing like a magician's trick. By the third week, she wasn't sleeping, not even pretending. Ada, her best friend and resident cyberforensics hurricane, had stormed into her office with her laptop and that expression that meant something is very wrong. "You need to slow down," Ada warned. "I can't," Zara said. "Not on this one." "I know," Ada sighed. "That's what scares me. Because Titanium wasn't like the others. Titanium fought back. The first threat was quiet. An unmarked envelope left on the windshield of her car. Inside was a single photograph. Her parents' house in Enugu. No note. No words. Just the message, "We see you." Zara didn't flinch. She locked the photo in her desk and kept working. But something shifted in her that night. This wasn't a case anymore. It was a war. The next month blurred, late nights, erased trails, leads that vanished as soon as she touched them. Whoever ran Titanium wasn't just corrupt. They were brilliant. A ghost with money. "Someone in Korea is pulling the strings," Ada muttered one evening, rubbing tired eyes. "Good," Zara said. "Then we pull harder." She didn't realize she'd already crossed a line. The day they destroyed her began like any other. Navy suit, tight bun, bitter coffee. Then she walked into her office and found police tape. Internal affairs. Investigators. Reporters. Chaos. "Zara," Chitty whispered, "they're saying you took bribes." At first she laughed because it was absurd. Then they showed her the evidence. Emails with her name. Bank deposits. Witness statements. All fake. All perfect. A flawless trap. Her fiancé left. Her job vanished. Her name became poison. Only Ada stayed. For months they tried to untangle the conspiracy, but every trail vanished into the same abyss. Titanium. Eventually, Zara understood something painful and simple. If she stayed, they would destroy her father next. So she left. Quietly. Not because she was guilty, but because they had taken everything else she had left to sacrifice. Ghana gave her anonymity. Silence. A chance to breathe. For 6 months, she lived small. Invisible. Healing without knowing she was healing. Then Ada called with something impossible. "Korea," she said. "Start over." Zara almost said no. But the part of her that refused to stay dead, the stubborn, unbreakable part, listened. Because sometimes life gives you a second chance. And sometimes it waits 7 years to let you deliver the perfect revenge. For 6 months, Zara lived quietly in a small apartment in Accra, Ghana, working as a legal consultant under a different name. She cut her hair short, stopped wearing makeup, moved through her days like a ghost drifting through borrowed space, unsure if she'd ever feel whole again. Then Ada called with something that sounded like madness. "There's a judicial exchange program between African courts and South Korea," she said. "They're looking for experienced legal professionals. 2-year terms. Full authority. Fresh start."
Korea.
Zara had laughed. Bitter, tired. "The country where the company that destroyed me lives? Sounds like a terrible idea." "Or the perfect one," Ada countered. Her tone sharpened.
J. Listen.
"Korea is safe.
Structured.
Transparent. Nobody there knows your name. You could rebuild yourself without a storm hanging over your head. And if I run into Titanium? Seoul has 10 million people," Ada said. "What are the odds?" The odds, as the universe proved, were exactly 100%. Karma had a long memory. Zara excelled in the exchange program from day one. Her sharp legal mind, fluency in English and Korean, a language she'd learned during her Titanium investigation, and calm decisiveness quickly earned her respect. Within 18 months, she was offered a permanent district court appointment, making her one of the youngest foreign judges in Seoul's history. She accepted not just because she loved the work, but because Korea gave her something Africa had taken. A career without shadows. Here, she wasn't the disgraced prosecutor from the headlines. She was simply Judge Nwosu, brilliant, fair, and notoriously intolerant of nonsense. The wound had scarred, but hadn't healed. She carried the past like a silent oath. Fight harder, judge cleaner, never let corruption win again. And then one morning, karma walked back into her life. She was in her chambers, reviewing motions, when her clerk, Park Min-ji, entered with a stack of files. Your Honor, reassignment from Judge Huang. He's taken ill. You've been assigned People vs. Baek Jae-hyun. Zara looked up, the name landing wrong. What are the charges? Multiple counts: embezzlement, fraud, illegal surveillance, contract manipulation, obstruction. The defendant is the CEO of Titanium Industries. The pen slid from Zara's fingers and rolled across the desk. Titanium Industries, she repeated, keeping her tone neutral, disciplined. Yes, Your Honor. A whistleblower released extensive evidence. The prosecution believes Mr. Baek has been running a criminal enterprise for over a decade. Zara inhaled slowly. I see. When is the initial hearing? 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you, Min-ji. Please bring me all supporting documentation. I want everything reviewed before court. When Min-ji left, Zara sat completely still. Then she opened the bottom drawer of her desk and pulled out the folder she'd carried across 2 countries. Her own case file. Her ruin in paper form. She unfolded the old, fabricated evidence. Ada's tracing notes. And a single photograph of Baek Jae-hyun, smiling for a Titanium press release. She studied it for a long time. Then she closed the folder and opened the new case file like a surgeon preparing for a heart operation. Stay with me, because from here on, nothing in Zara's life stays the same. The first hearing was chaos. Reporters filled every seat. Cameras crowded the aisles. Lines had formed outside the courthouse before sunrise. Baek Jae-hyun arrived flanked by lawyers and advisors, dressed impeccably, projecting the calm confidence of a man who had always bought his way out of trouble. That confidence evaporated the moment Zara entered the room. She watched his face go pale, recognition slamming into him like a fist. Panic flickered behind his eyes.
Good, she thought.
Let him feel what he made me feel. But Zara had learned patience during her exile. She wouldn't rush this. She would dismantle him slowly, legally, beautifully. Your Honor, Jae-hyun's lead attorney, Kim Sung-min, stood, voice polished and cautious. We'd like to request reassignment. My client believes there may be a conflict of interest. On what grounds? Zara asked, cool and unimpressed.
Kim hesitated.
Jae-hyun leaned in and whispered urgently. Finally, Kim spoke. My client believes he may have previously encountered Your Honor in a professional capacity that could compromise impartiality. I see, Zara said. Mr. Baek, please stand and explain this alleged prior encounter. Jae-hyun stood, jaw tight. 7 years ago, Your Honor, you were investigating Titanium Industries in Nigeria. I believe that history may influence your judgment. The courtroom buzzed, reporters' fingers flying across keyboards. Zara let the silence build before she answered. Mr. Baek, that investigation was closed without charges. Are you suggesting I hold a vendetta over a case that resulted in no finding of wrongdoing?
He faltered.
I know, Your Honor, but... Furthermore, Zara continued, judges are assigned cases through an automated rotation system. Are you implying this court's administrative procedures are flawed? Kim jumped back in, panicked. Of course not, Your Honor. We only wish to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Your motion is denied, Zara said, final and cold. If you have concerns, file a complaint with the Judicial Oversight Committee. Until then, I remain the presiding judge. Understood. Jae-hyun swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Let's proceed. Over the following weeks, Zara conducted the trial with ruthless efficiency. She was fair, painfully fair. Every objection weighed. Every document scrutinized. Every delay tactic crushed, without hesitation. The prosecution's case was brutal. Lee Sang-wook, a former titanium executive turned whistleblower, delivered a trove of evidence that painted the company as a decade-long empire of corruption. Forged financial reports, secret bribes, illegal surveillance of journalists, witness intimidation, disappearances. Listening to the testimony, Zara felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years, justice stretching its fingers toward the truth she had bled for. But something else gnawed at her. Jae-hyun wasn't fighting. He wasn't outraged. He wasn't offensive. He wasn't even afraid.
He looked resigned.
Like a man already kneeling before the executioner. He overruled his own lawyers. Accepted evidence that damaged him. Barely flinched when the prosecution carved into his reputation. It made no sense until the afternoon she confronted him. During a recess in the third week, she found herself walking toward him before she even knew she'd stood up. Mr. Beck. His name cracked through the hallway like a warning shot.
He turned.
Up close, Zara looked even more intimidating than she did on the bench, less human, more carved from discipline. Her eyes dissected him like a crime scene she'd already solved. Your Honor, he said stiffly. We shouldn't be speaking without. This isn't the court, she cut in. This is a hallway. And I'm not speaking as your judge. I'm speaking as the woman you helped destroy. He swallowed. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A clerk's heels clicked somewhere behind them, sharp as metronome beats. You're not fighting, she said. You're rich enough to drag this trial out for 10 years. Instead, you're just standing there and taking it. Why? He let out a broken laugh, one sharp, bitter exhale. Would you believe me if I said I deserve it?
No.
That single word split him open. Smart woman, he murmured. You always were. She saw it then. Beneath the arrogance, beneath the polish, something rotten with regret. Something hollowed out. I'm not going to insult you by claiming I'm innocent, he said quietly. Most of what they're saying is true. The bribes, the surveillance, the manipulation. But 7 years ago, when they came for you, his throat tightened. That was my father. I watched him orchestrate every piece of your downfall. And I stayed silent. Her fingers curled into her palm. Why tell me this now? Because you deserve to know whose hands were really on the knife. His voice dropped. And because he isn't done. The recess ended, but his words followed her like a shadow. If you're still here, stay close. The truth is about to sharpen its teeth. That night, Zara called Ada.
He admitted it, Zara said.
Your favorite criminal prince. He said his father orchestrated everything. Ada froze. Baek desum.
Yes.
But every public record says he's been dead for 9 years. Keys clacked through the phone.
Car accident.
Funerals. Corporate tributes. Everything looks airtight, Ada said. Then after a beat. Too airtight. Zara stared at her old case file, the one she'd carried across borders, its edges frayed from sleepless nights. Ada, if a man like that needed to disappear, what's the cleanest way? You stage a death, Ada said. Then you buy reality. Z, if he's alive, you're stepping on a live wire. I noticed, Zara muttered. The wire snapped 3 days later. The leak hit the internet like a bomb. High-definition footage of her daily routine. Her address. Private emails. Bank statements. A polished resurrection of her old scandal. Same lies, new packaging. She recognized the signature immediately. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. I told you he wasn't done, Jae-hyun said.
No greeting.
If this is another confession, save it for the record. It's not a confession. His voice was shredded, frantic. It's a warning. He knows exactly who you are. And he plays for keeps. That would be more convincing if your father wasn't supposed to be in a grave. A beat of silence. He isn't. Cold spread through her chest. Come to my chambers, she said. With your counsel. Or don't come at all. He came, dragged by lawyers who argued, protested, pleaded. She dismissed them. The door shut. It was just the two of them.
Talk, she ordered.
My father faked his death 9 years ago, Jae-hyun said. New name. New network. Titanium is just a public mask. And I should believe you because… You shouldn't. He reached slowly into his pocket. Her finger hovered over the panic button. You should believe him. He placed a flash drive on her desk. I've been stealing from him for months, he said.
Files. Videos.
Transaction logs. I thought I could use them for leverage. His eyes flicked to the leak on her screen. Tonight, I realized there's no such thing as leverage with him. There's only alive or dead. Why give this to me? Zara asked. You can still save yourself. And you? I don't want to die as the man who watched you burn, he whispered. She picked up the drive, heavy as a bullet. If this is real, she said, I can end him. If it's real, he said softly, you can end both of us. I still don't trust you. I know, but I hate your father more than I hate you. His breath left him in something like relief. I'm sending this to someone, she said. If it's legitimate, you just became the most dangerous witness in Korea. And you, he said, just became the only judge he can't afford to let live. He left. Zara called Ada. I'm sending you something, she said. If it's what I think, we're not in a courtroom anymore. Ada didn't ask what she meant. She already knew. She worked through the night. When she called back, her voice was tight. Zara, your father is on this list. Zara's world stuttered. What? Monthly payments. 7 years. $20,000 each. All from Daesung.
No.
My father would never. I don't think he knows, Ada said gently. It's through a fake law firm. This was a backup frame job. If you got too close, he planned to destroy your father too. That bastard, Zara whispered. He held a gun to my family's head and none of us saw it. What do you want to do? Zara's voice sharpened into steel. Destroy him. Completely. They began planning. Lee Sang-wook asked for a meeting. He revealed Daesung's current identity. Yoon Tae-jin, a respected venture capitalist, living openly in Gangnam.
He had DNA.
Photos. Voice samples. 7 years of evidence. I'll testify, he said, if you guarantee he'll be stopped forever. Zara nodded. I guarantee it. Over the next week, they built a covert web around Daesung, surveillance, financial tracing, quiet coordination with people Zara trusted in and outside Korea. Meanwhile, in court, she moved as if nothing had changed. The trial continued. Jae-hyun testified. Piece by piece, his father's empire began to crack. The prosecution, however, was nervous. Your Honor, with respect, you should have recused yourself. One of them argued behind closed doors. Your involvement. I'm doing my job, Zara replied. If you object, file a complaint. She was already past the point of caring about promotions or safety. Some things were worth more than a career. When the last piece of evidence was in place, Zara set the final trap. The trap closed on a Friday afternoon. Officially, it was a special evidentiary session. Unofficially, it was an execution. The courtroom was packed. Press, spectators, prosecutors, defense. The air buzzed like an exposed wire. Zara took the bench as if it were any other day. Today, she said, this court will hear testimony related to a wider criminal conspiracy connected to the defendant and others unknown. The defense leapt up, objecting. The prosecution exchanged confused looks. Zara didn't so much as blink. The court calls Lee Sang-wook. For 2 hours, Lee spoke about a staged death, a stolen identity, bought officials, and enemies who simply vanished. Then Zara called Ada. Photographs. Scars that matched. Voice prints that aligned. Shell companies mapped from one side of the world to the other. By the time Ada stepped down, the room felt split open. If you're still following every twist, drop a comment with your theory because what comes next changes everything. Zara straightened her papers. Based on the evidence presented, she said calmly, this court finds probable cause to believe that an individual operating under the name Yoon Tae-jin is, in fact, Baek Dae-sung. I am issuing a warrant for his immediate arrest. The room detonated. Voices erupted. Reporters lunged for the exits. Lawyers shouted over one another. And then, the doors burst open. The ghost walked in. Older. Leaner. Face harder. Eyes like polished knives. Baek Dae-sung, Zara said. You're late. He smiled, slow and venomous. You've grown, Ms. Nwosu, he said, ignoring her title. Last time, you were just a noisy African prosecutor who didn't understand power. You miscalculated, she replied. You think any of this changes anything? He laughed. I own ministers, judges, police chiefs. You present a few documents and suddenly you believe the system works.
No, Zara said.
You walked in here on your own. That tells me you're scared. The smile died in his eyes. Security, Zara said without raising her voice. Take Mr. Baek into custody. His warrant has already been signed. No one moved. Their eyes were fixed on the bulge beneath his jacket. He moved first. The gun came out in one smooth motion. Gasps ripped through the courtroom. He didn't point it at his son. He pointed it at her. Zara rose slowly from the bench. Shoot me, she said softly. For one suspended moment, the room held its breath. Then everything happened at once. Screams. Officers shouting. Jae-hyun lunging from the defendant's table. A shot cracked. The acoustic panel behind Zara's head exploded in a spray of foam and dust. Police swarmed. Jae-hyun slammed into his father from the side, wrenching his arm off target, dragging him down as the gun scraped across the floor. The courtroom collapsed into chaos, bodies ducking, cameras still rolling, orders being shouted in 3 languages. When it was over, Baek Dae-sung was on his knees, hands cuffed behind his back, suit torn, still spitting threats no one cared about anymore. Zara stood, dust on her robe, heartbeat loud in her ears. You do not own this court, she said evenly. Not anymore. Her gaze shifted to Jae-hyun, breathing hard, cheek bruised, wrists already bound again. And you, she added, just chose a side. Millions watched the dynasty fall in real time. An African judge standing unflinching before a gun. A criminal empire collapsing at her feet. The aftermath was a storm. Investigations erupted across multiple agencies. Everyone connected to Dae-sung came under scrutiny. Dozens of officials were arrested. Titanium Industries imploded, its assets frozen, its name turned from prestige to poison overnight. And at the center of it all stood Zara, the African judge who brought down Korea's most powerful crime family. Justice Without Borders, how Zara Nwosu exposed a decade of corruption. From destroyed to destroyer, the comeback of Judge Nwosu. She gave interviews, answered questions, sat under bright lights and let strangers pick apart the worst years of her life. But it wasn't until 2 weeks after Dae-sung's arrest, in a small, quiet conference room, that everything finally hit her. Jae-hyun had requested to see her. He sat on one side of the table in prison clothing. She sat on the other in her black robe. 7 years stretched between them. They're offering me a deal, he said.
No greeting. No preamble.
If I testify against my father and cooperate with ongoing investigations, they'll reduce my sentence. I could be out in 5 years. Will you take it? She asked. I don't know. He stared at his cuffed hands. Part of me thinks I should rot in prison for the rest of my life, for what I let happen to you, for everything my family did. Zara studied him for a long moment. Mr. Baek, I spent 7 years hating you, she said quietly. Your father, everyone who helped destroy my life. And you know what I learned? Hate is exhausting. It eats everything and gives nothing back. So you've forgiven me? He asked. No, her voice was firm. Forgiveness isn't a discount you get for feeling guilty. It's something I might choose one day, For my peace, not yours. But you still have a choice. He swallowed. What choice? You can spend the next 5 or 50 years defining yourself by your father's sins, she said. Or you can spend them trying to make amends. How do I make amends for something like this? His voice cracked on the last word. By testifying, she said. By making sure every single person your father hurt gets justice. By using everything you know to make sure that empire can never be rebuilt. By being the man who helped tear it down instead of the man who silently watched it thrive. He was quiet for a long time. Your Honor, he said finally, when you had the chance, why didn't you destroy me? In that courtroom, you could have given me the maximum, made sure I never saw light again. Why didn't you? Because I'm not interested in revenge, Mr. Beck, she replied. I'm interested in justice. And justice means treating even the people who hurt us with the fairness we wish they'd shown us. It means being better than our worst impulses. It means proving that the system can work, even when powerful people try to break it. She stood. At the door, she paused and looked back at him. Take the deal, she said. Help us make sure your father never hurts anyone else. And maybe one day, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror without flinching. The case against Daesung stretched on for months. He tried every trick, appeals, delays, procedural challenges. But the evidence was too much. Witness after witness took the stand. Documents piled up. The story became too big to bury. After 72 hours of deliberation, the jury returned.
Guilty.
On all counts. Zara wasn't on the bench for that verdict. It had been reassigned to avoid any suggestion of bias, but she sat quietly in the gallery as the judge read out, life in prison without the possibility of parole. She watched Daesung led away in chains, still barking threats that landed nowhere. For the first time in 7 years, she felt something unfamiliar. Not joy. Not triumph.
Peace.
Imperfect. Fragile. But real. The kind you build yourself, piece by piece, after surviving something that should have broken you. 6 months later, the offer started. A book deal. A promotion to appellate court. Speeches. Awards. Panels. Zara turned most of them down. What she wanted wasn't more spotlight. It was work that mattered. So she left the bench. She joined an international anti-corruption task force, going back to what she'd always been at her core, not a celebrity judge, not a symbol, but a woman who refused to let powerful people hide behind money and paperwork. The day she left, Ada threw her a small party at a restaurant in Itaewon. Friends from the courthouse came. Prosecutors. Investigators. Even Lee Sang-wook, now half-legend, half-reluctant public figure. Speech, someone yelled, and others took up the chant. Zara rolled her eyes, but stood, raising her glass. I'm not good at speeches, she began. But I'll say this, 7 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought when powerful people decide to destroy you, that's it. You stay destroyed. She paused, looking around the table. Ada's eyes were already shining. I was wrong, Zara continued. You can knock a woman down, humiliate her, make her question everything she believes about justice and fairness, and whether it's worth fighting at all. She smiled, small but sharp. But if she's stubborn enough, if she refuses to let them have the final word, she gets back up. And when she does, she's not the same woman who fell. She's stronger, smarter, and absolutely unwilling to take anyone's nonsense ever again. Laughter and applause washed over her. For a moment, Zara let herself feel it, the victory, the survival, the quiet, steady joy of still being here. She hadn't just survived.
She'd won.
The final loose end arrived 3 years later. Zara was working late at the task force office when a new email appeared in her inbox.
Sender, ba ek Yehoon.
She stared at the name for a few seconds before opening it. The email came late, well past midnight, when the city outside Zara's office window had quieted into a glittering hush. Dear Judge Nwosu, it began. She froze. Only one person would address her like that. I'm writing to inform you that I've been released from prison after serving 5 years of my sentence. As part of my parole conditions, I'm required to assist with ongoing investigations and maintain employment. I've accepted a position with an anti-corruption NGO. My role is to help them understand how men like me think so they can stop the next titanium before it starts. I'm not writing to ask for your forgiveness, or even your acknowledgement. I just wanted you to know that I took your advice. I'm trying to make amends. I'm trying to be the man who helped tear down an empire, instead of the man who silently watched it grow. I'll never repay what I owe you, or the people my family hurt, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. With deepest respect, Baek Jae-hyun. Zara read it once, then again, then a third time, slower. Not to forgive him, but to understand the shape of who he was becoming. She typed a short reply. Mr. Baek, I wish you strength on your redemption journey. Make it count. Her cursor hovered before she added one last line. And you can call me Zara now. I'm not a judge anymore. She hit send. For a moment, she just sat there, hands folded, breath steady, watching soul shimmer through her office window. Somewhere out there, a man who had once been her enemy was trying to become something better. Somewhere out there, another case file waited for her. Another fight. Another truth that needed dragging into the light. She hoped the next young prosecutor facing a giant wouldn't flinch. She hoped they'd be stubborn, ruthless, unwilling to accept that power always wins. Because that was the real lesson she carried. Justice doesn't always prevail, but it prevails often enough if enough people refuse to give up on it. And sometimes, the universe hands you the most poetic karma imaginable. The man who tried to ruin your life ends up standing in your courtroom, watching as you dismantle his entire world with nothing but the law and the truth. That was justice. That was beautiful. That was worth surviving for. If this story hits a nerve, stay sharp. And subscribe because the next tale cuts deeper.